Welcome to the training kitchen here in Donington, where today we're going to cook up an amazing, nutritious, healthy, low budget, beautiful dinner for tonight. We're going to do a veggie Bolognese pie. We're going to use any veg we've got in the fridge. We're going to match that with things that we just have in the store cupboard, whether it be beans or lentils, that tins, they last forever. And we're going to marry that on top with some beautiful sweet potato mash. If you want to chop it with some cheese, you can do. Give it that little golden finish. But today, the sun is now shining out here. We're ready to go. I hope you're with us. So let's crack on. Eyes down on the board. Let's see what we've got. So we've got our sweet potato and our swede. They're there for us to make our mash with. Then what we're putting into our pie, we've got some beautiful fresh veg. I've managed to find a bag of chopped mushrooms, which were in our fridge here. Yellow stickered, reduced price. They need to be used, so we're going to use that. We've got garlic, we've got onions, so for some taste and some aromat in there. We've got some parsnip. That's going to bring a real depth of flavour, along with our carrots, tin of chopped tomatoes, and we've got some lentils. Now, if you haven't got lentils, but for example, you've got a tin of butter beans or kidney beans, it's brilliant. It's a source of protein. That's why it's there. And that's why we're doing this dish. You can swap anything in, anything out. It really doesn't matter. So, as always with UK Harvest, we're going to get everything prepped so that we're ready to go. So I'm going to make some room on my board. Move some of this lot out of the way. Leave the onion and garlic. We'll do that bit first. Move our sweet potato over there. So, first of all, garlic. Let's get that done. All we're going to do, lie it on its back. Gently take that bottom bit off. Don't cut all the way through, because what we want to do is roll that away to gently remove the skin. Now, the skins are great. You can keep those if you want to. Just keep piling them in a pot in the freezer. When you've got a pot full, they're brilliant to make stock, bases for soups, anything like that. Or as Sian, who would normally be with me, but unfortunately is not in today, dry them out. Maybe put them on a little tray in a warm oven, dry them out, and sprinkle them on top of salads. They make such a good flavour adder to your salad. Now, when we've got our clove of garlic, we're going to put our knife on the top, heel of the hand goes in, crush it down, and then we'll just go gently cut through our garlic. Now, keep your fingers away, there's no rush. Keep the blade of the knife, so the point of the knife, in contact with the board at all times, and we'll just rock motion through it. And when we've got all of it done, not going to use our fingers because we don't want to get cut. Use the end of the spoon, just slide those off, back onto the board, and then we can bring it all together, point of the knife into the board, and rock through. Making it really small, little pieces of garlic. Nobody wants a big piece of garlic at this time of year. Maybe you do around Halloween to keep those vampires away, but we've got a couple of months till that. So rock through with that. And we're going to do exactly the same with the second clove of garlic as well. Now, we're doing this because we're using a load of store cupboard essentials today. And that's something that we really like to always talk to anybody that we talk to at UK Harvest. We talk about the store cupboard. And why do we talk about store cupboard? Well, store cupboard saves us waste. Because store cupboard stuff comes in tins, it lasts for ages and ages and ages, and canned product, a lot of canned product is safe for consumption up to sort of 2-3 years after the best before date. So it can be things that are just sat in the cupboard that you can add to infuse flavour, to build that depth, and to add some vital nutrients to your dinner. So the flavours and the protein that we're using today is obviously the lentils. The main protein source is those lentils. Now, the tin of lentils, it's in the cupboard. It can sit there. You've got a load of veg left in the bottom of the fridge. You're looking and thinking, what do I do? Excuse me. What do I do? You bring it all together, make a beautiful vegetarian bolognese, exactly like we're going to do today. But rather than matching it with the pasta or with the spaghetti, because we've got a swede and we've got a couple of sweet potatoes, we're going to top it with that and make a sort of like a cottage pie, shepherd's pie, but a bolognese version with veg. And that's why we do it, because we like to keep it so that we can use our store cupboard, because it saves us waste. And if we save on our waste, not only do we save the environment, but we're saving our pockets, spending lots of money that we don't need to. So that's our garlic. That's been chopped up, finely diced up. If you want to use a garlic press, you can. That's absolutely fine. Next thing is this, okay? So we're going to go on with our onion. Now, I've got quite a big onion. And remember, our mouth not only tastes food with flavor, but it will taste food through texture as well. So we're going to do half of this onion quite big, quite chunky, and the other half we're going to do a little bit finer, a little bit smaller dices. And that's just so that our mouth gets different textures, different taste buds get hit by the different sizes and shapes of our food, and it enhances the eating experience. So again, back down. Let's just take off the top, roll that away, take off the root. Again, freeze all this up, guys. You can use it in a stock. You can use it as a base for any flavored soup. It's just going to add that extra little bit of flavor for you. So put that in your freeze box. Keep adding to it. When you've got a tub full in the freezer, that's the time. Make your stock. So in half from head to toe, and then just gently with your knife, blade facing away, we're just going to lift up the skin and just bring that skin away, again into our freeze box. And this one, because I've got still an outer skin on there, I'm going to take that next layer off and put that in my stock freeze box as well. Okay, so none of this is going in the bin. It's all going into my stock and freeze box. I'm going to do the same with the other half. There we go, one piece. So I've got my 2 onions. Now my first one, I'm going to cut up quite thick, quite chunky. So I'm just going to make 2 slices across what I call the belly of that onion. And I'm going to turn it round. I'm just going to chop it up so that I've got sort of 1, maybe 2 centimetre square pieces of onion, about the same size as the top of my thumb. Okay, so about the same size as the top of my thumb. So that's the first half of my onion. Now, because I want to taste my food differently and I want different taste buds to get hit, the other half, I'm going to make nice thin slices across the belly. And I'm going to finely dice this up so that it eats easier maybe, but is also going to get into all those, sounds like a toothpaste advert now, hard to reach places on your taste buds, okay? And then just twist it round and then just again, just finely dice that onion up. And that is going to start our cooking process. That'll be the first thing that we cook, will be this onion. Now, when you get to this stage and it starts to feel like you're getting close to your fingers or the onion's rocking, just knock it over onto the other flat surface. And we just cut through just to make it all really small. Okay, again, don't want to use our fingers, we use the back of that spoon and the back of the knife. Don't use the blade of the knife against the spoon because it will make your knives go blunt. So we've got garlic, chunky onion, diced onion. We are in such good shape. So let's just move those over. Get those out of the way. Keep them separate because we need to cook the onion first because the onion will take longer to cook than the garlic and we don't want to burn the garlic. So keep those 2 separate. And then we're going to come on to our veg. So if we come back up, we've got carrots and we've got a parsnip, okay? Quite often you buy carrots in a bag. You always look, you go, oh, I've only got a couple left. I've got to feed the whole family. What can I do? I'll tell you what, I'll use those tomorrow. Or I'll use those tomorrow. This is a great dish to incorporate the 3/4 or a whole parsnip that you've got left over, the couple of carrots that are left in there, the bag of prep veg, because we're going to put some mushrooms in ours as well, which has just been in the fridge just because we bought it, it was on offer, we were going to use it, and we haven't. So it's a great fridge raider recipe. Don't think you've got to go out and buy ingredient. If you've got the veg left, use it. If it's broccoli, if it's green beans, even if you use the tins of sweet corn, tins of peas, frozen veg, whatever you use, this dish is going to be packed full of good, vital vitamins, minerals, nutrients. It's balanced with the proteins from the lentils or the beans. It's hitting with the carbs from the potatoes. It's got its fruit and veg content coming into it with the parsnips, the carrot, the swede, and anything else you decide. This is a dish that you can cook with what's in the cupboard, what's in the fridge. That's why it helps us to eat well, but spend less. And that's what it's all about. So I'm not going to peel my carrot. All I'm going to do, I'm going to cut this end off. So if we're back on the board, I'm going to cut that end off because I don't want that little bit going in my dinner. And then all I'm going to do, I'm just going to cut this into half so it's easier for me to manage. And then when I've got my chunk of carrot, I'm going to cut it long ways using a bridge cut, which means we put the knife on and bridge it with our fingers. Bridge it and cut it. Always now working with a flat surface. I'm just going to cut this up into what I call manageable mouth size. Okay? Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean is, if you had that on your plate, that's a manageable mouth size. If you have something 3 times the size of it, you've got to cut it up. You want to be able to eat this pie basically with a big hunk of crusty bread and a spoon. All right? Now, that's not putting anybody's eating habits down. It's just the warming way to eat this pie. So everything's got to be mouth size. Manageable mouth size. So I'm just going to get my carrot done. And I'm going to try to cut my carrot and my parsnips to about the same size. Don't think that's a big bit, guys. It's not. I'm going to try and cut them to about the same size because they're both root veg and they're both going to take about the same time to cook if they're the same size. As soon as one of them gets huge, it's going to take longer than the other one to cook. And we want it to cook so that we can eat it. So, again, with the other half of that first carrot, cut through so I can work on a flat surface. Come down and through. And then just mouth size, manageable mouth size pieces. And we're just going to carry on. I'm going to get the second carrot done in exactly the same way. So if you are cooking along at home, don't feel under pressure, don't feel rushed. You've got plenty of time. We're going to recap everything that we do as we go. But just so you know, I am going to cut the second carrot as well. Again, I'm going to take the end off because I don't want that bit in my dinner. I'm then going to cut it in half so it's manageable size pieces. So I can then bridge cut and then flat surface. Should have put a little tip to everybody at home. Okay, little tip. If your board's moving around like mine is, just put a damp cloth underneath it. Or get a piece of kitchen roll, get it wet, put that underneath, it'll stop it rocking and rolling. James in the background now is getting a cloth damp for me so I can put it underneath because this one, if you look down at the board, is doing this on me at the moment because I forgot my own golden rule, which was to put a damp cloth under the chopping board. Thank you, James. Much appreciated. I'm so glad I've got a team that are listening in here. It's great. And now it's not going to wobble. Okay, so back to doing my carrots. Get them all cut up the same size. Live on YouTube. It's all bound to go wrong at some stage. Simon forgot his cloth, but luckily he hasn't cut himself, so we'll carry on. And obviously all these YouTube live videos that we're doing at the moment, through the support of Tesco's Community Grants. So all those people that shop at Tesco's that get given their little blue tokens to put into a charity pot when they leave the store, they do go to good homes. They do go to good causes. So far, I think the reach with our Tesco's project is well in excess of 20,000 people directly impacted through the work that we've been doing. If you haven't seen our Eat Well, Spend Less booklets, keep your eyes out. There may be some still in some of the Tesco stores around the country. If not, if you would like one sent to you, just drop us an email. Send it straight through via the Contact Us site on our webpage. So www.ukharvest.org.uk. Contact us and just ask us for an Eat Well, Spend Less booklet. And I'm sure that we can manage to either get you a digital copy or send you a paper copy straight out. Full of tips on storage, which we've been talking about today. Full of tips on shopping savvy. Right, coming back up. Parsnip. Some people love them. Some people hate them. I've got to be honest, I'm in the love camp on parsnips, okay? Whether you roast them, whether you stir fry them and put them into a filling for a bolognese or a pie like we're doing today, They bring so much beautiful, earthy flavour. It just transforms a dish for me. It takes it to that next level. It's a little bit like sort of celeriac and other things that look weird, always get reduced because people buy them and don't really know what to do with them. But they just bring that extra flavour. That sort of, for me, it's that sixth sense, that umami flavour to a dish. Again, I'm not going to peel this because we're going to put it in with our dish. All I'm going to do is top and tail it. So eyes back down. We'll top it. Just take off the softer piece at the bottom, but the rest of that parsnip is absolutely cracking. Again, bridge cut, like we did with the carrot. And then we're just going to come back through. Now, my mother will probably be watching this going, I can't believe you're not peeling your parsnips. My grandmother would be going, I can't believe you're not going to parboil them first. You don't need to with this dish, guys. It's going to simmer. It's going to take all the flavour and the juice from the tomatoes, the juice from the lentils, and it's just going to cook through so beautifully that you don't need to peel them. You don't need to parboil them. I can remember my grandmother, bless her, would get a parsnip like this, and then she'd cut it down the middle down there to roast them for Sunday lunch, and then she'd try and take the middle hard bit out. She used to go to such extremes just to get her parsnips to taste a little bit different. You don't need to. But thanks, Nan, because you got me in the kitchen to start off with. So cheers. But I'm not going to take the middles out. Anyway, if we get through and we're ending up with getting really big bits of parsnip, feel free to cut them in half the other way. But I'm going to keep mine chunky because I think they're manageable mouse-sized pieces. And they can stack up with our carrots. So don't worry about that. Again, flat surface down. Just cut through. One way, turn it round. Small pieces, cut through the other way. The filling of this pie is going to be absolutely beautiful. It's going to pack so much punch. I'm going to use mushrooms as well, like I said earlier. Mushrooms with the parsnip, with the carrot. That's going to give us a really earthy flavour. That along with the sweet potato to lighten it, to bring it back up and sweeten up the top. The flavours are going to cut together so well. I really hope you guys at home are understanding that through using very few fresh ingredients, we're going to have such an amazing dish at the end of this. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to get my onions on to cook so that I can prep everything else because I'm running out of space on my board, basically. So in a big wok or frying pan, unlock my hob, beep at me, please. Just going to try and unlock the hob. There we go. So, in a frying pan, big frying pan or a wok, a medium heat is what you want. So mine goes up to number 9 on my hob, so I'm going in at about 6, okay? And what I'm going to do with that, I'm just going to add just a tablespoon of oil. Doesn't need to be much more than that. So a little glug of oil. And I'm just going to get that oil warm, okay? At 6, that oil is not going to get hot. I don't want it hot. I want it warm because I want to be able to put the onions in and they just gently sizzle rather than spitting at me, rather than rushing with this big as all of the liquid hits the oil. I just want it just to pop through for us, okay? So that's why I'm not going to get it hot. I'm just going to get it warm. The way you can check that, if we go back down, just the back of your hand, it's the most sensitive part of your, heat-sensitive part of your body. A little bit away from the top, don't stick your hand straight into oil. And if you just glaze your hand over the top, you'll be able to feel the heat coming off the pan. Another way, by sight, my oil went in. If it runs around the pan and moves really easily like that, it's getting warmer, it's getting hotter. If it's a slow crawl around the pan, you just need to let it heat through a little bit more. And then onions, just the onions, can go in and you'll hear a little sizzle. Nothing massive. It's not splashing me with oil. It's not spitting everywhere. It's just a little sizzle. So in they go. Wooden spoon. Give them a mix round. Get them all covered in oil. And then we're just going to leave them just to gently soften and to start to go so that they look a little bit what I call glassy or a little bit translucent. So like a bathroom window, which has got frosting on it, light comes through, but it's that sort of glassy look. You can't actually see through it, but there's light coming through. That's what we're looking for in there. Whilst we're waiting for that, I'm going to take my time and gently open my tin of tomatoes. Right, okay, so I've got the tomatoes, they're ready to go. And then I've got my tin of lentils. Now these are just a tin that we had over in the warehouse, so they've obviously been rescued, but green lentils, red lentils, whichever lentils you want, they're all good. If you go with the tinned ones, it means you haven't got to go through the process of soaking and cooking. And the used by on these, oh God, we've still got 2 years on them, and we've got an extension on that because it's the best before date on the tin. As long as the pack's got its integrity, we're probably good for about another 4 years. These can sit in the cupboard for ages. Now, I'm not draining any of these because I want the juice from both tins along with my 350 ml of stock. And it's going to look really wet to start off with, but we're going to simmer that down to cook our vegetables, to cook our carrots, our parsnip, our mushroom. We need it to simmer down. It's going to use that flavour, use that liquid to cook that veg. So back down to our onion. How's that coming along? It's looking good. So we don't necessarily want it to caramelise. So we don't want it to start to go brown. We just want it to go soft. Now, if you want to caramelise it, you want to leave it in there for that 8 to 10 minutes. That's absolutely fine. Just keep moving it. You don't want it burnt. And there's a big difference between burnt and caramelised, okay? So caramelised, yes, slowly cook it. It goes darker. The sugars in the onion come out. They caramelise. Don't burn it or trying to do it too quick. Once we get to a stage where all of our leaves of onion have split apart from everything else, it's starting to look glassy and translucent. That's when I'm going to add in my garlic, okay? I'm going to add the garlic, and I'm just going to give it about 30 seconds of just the garlic in there before I go in with the other veg. Now, the reason I'm doing that, I want to infuse into that oil as many of the aromats as I can. Now, the aromats are things that bring extra flavour and aroma to your dish, and that's what the onion and the garlic are doing today. So I want those aromats into the oil so that when I go in with my vegetables, that oil is going to coat all of them and bring that flavour through. So I'm on 6, I'm just going to go up to 7 just to get my oil hot, 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 hot. Not full heat, just a medium to high heat. And as soon as you can start to smell the garlic, so I can really smell that garlic coming through now, that means that the aromats are coming out. That's when I'm going in with my parsnips. That's when I'm going in with my carrots. And I'm just going to put those in, straight in. I'm going to give them a really good mix around. So that all of those oils, the onion, the garlic, the parsnip, the carrot is all infused together. And now that I've given that a good stir around, I'm going to go in with a couple of tablespoons of dried mixed herbs. Now, if you haven't got dried mixed herbs, but you've got basil in the thing, sometimes called Italian mixed herbs, sometimes goes herbs of Provence, whatever, you can use them. I've got a thing of mixed herbs. Green mixed herbs, a couple of tablespoons. Just sprinkle those over the top. And that's going to give it that lovely, rich Italian Bolognese sort of flavour. Go mix that together. And then we're going to come on to prepping, because we want to cook this for about 10 minutes now over that medium heat. Just to use the liquids that's in the veg, just to start to soften them. And whilst that's doing that, we're going to start to prep our sweet potato and swede for our mash, okay? So if you want to turn your oven on in about 5-10 minutes, that's going to be perfect. You don't need it on just yet. Average oven will take about 12 minutes to get hot. So when we put our potatoes in is a good time to turn our oven on, because then when our potatoes are ready, we can make our pie, the oven's hot, everyone's a winner. Right, eyes down on the board again. That's going to cook for about 5-10 minutes. We're just going to leave that for a bit. In fact, no, we're not. No, we're not. We're going to add our tomatoes, and we're going to add our stock, and then we're going to simmer it. Because otherwise it's going to dry out and our herbs are going to go really crispy, and we don't want that to happen. So, in goes the tomatoes, in goes the stock. Now, we know that this is going to look really, 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 totally, really wet. Because it is. But we're going to bring all of that through. And if we put that into a pie at the moment, our pie is going to run away. But by the magic of how simmering and cooking food works, as we simmer this, it's going to thicken. It's going to reduce in quantity of liquid because the vapor is going to come off in steam. And we're going to end up with a really beautiful pie filling. So bring the temperature right up because you want to get it up to a boil to start off with. So by boil, I mean we want lots of quick bubbles coming all the way up through. When we get to that stage, we're then going to take the temperature back down a little bit so it just gently bubbles. And that's what we want to simmer for those 10 minutes, just so that it all starts to cook. And this is why, Nan, you don't need to worry about peeling your parsnips and taking the middle bit out. So I'm going to bring that up to the boil. What is it they say about a watch pot? Watch pots never boil. It will. So we're going to bring that up to the boil. Once it's boiling, we're then going to just take the temperature down a little bit so that it can just simmer, and then we're all good. Now, this is a good time to talk about beans, to talk about lentils, to talk about anything else that you can put in here. Now, this obviously is a veggie bolognese. It's totally, mine's going to be totally vegan today because I've got no cheese going on the top of mine. But if you haven't got lentils, but you've got those red kidney beans, the butter beans, the cannellini beans, black beans, whichever beans you've got, go for it, use it. If you want to add some sweet corn into it because you like sweet corn and you've got a tin of sweet corn in the cupboard, feel free, add the flavour in. Any veg, I've used carrots and parsnips, any veg, doesn't matter. This is a great one to do. You can do this recipe with a general stew pack that you can pick up at any supermarket and a couple of tins out of the cupboard. I want to say it's such a simple recipe. It is, but it isn't. You've got to think about what you're cooking and you're going to get the flavours. If you have a look down again, we're now boiling. Lots of bubbles coming through. So what we're going to do now, we're going to turn that down to a gentle simmer. So we only have gentle bubbles coming up through. And then we're going to prep our swede and our sweet potato. So whilst we're still here, here's our swede and our sweet potato. So about 500 grams, I would have thought, of sweet potato, medium-ish size swede. No need to peel, really. I'm going to peel the swede a little bit, but I'm going to do it with a knife. I'm going to take each end off, so I'm taking the dry aspect out of my swede. And then if you've got a peeler, feel free to use it. I haven't, so I'm just going to use a knife. I'm just going to take just the skin off. Okay, so I'm not losing much of the product. I'm not wasting my food. Just going to take the skin off, follow that round with my knife. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut this up into chunks, dice it up, nice and small, and put it into boiling water. We're going to cook that for about 15, possibly 20 minutes. And in that time, everything's going to break down, everything's going to soften, and we're going to be able to mash it really, really easily. So if you're using a peeler, you might be slightly quicker than me using the knife. But whichever way. And this is bringing a lot of the carb into your meal. Well, the sweet potato is definitely going to bring carbohydrate into your meal. And sweet potato, it's a bit of it's a weird one, sweet potato, because sweet potatoes have actually got what's called it's a lower glycemic index rating than white potatoes. So they're full of good sugar, basically. So if you happen to know anybody who is type 2 diabetic or is trying to sort their diet, limit their sugar and their blood sugar content, and that's an issue for them, sweet potato for them is going to be better than the white potato. So if you're going to top any cottage pies, any bolognese pies, if you've got any of those type 2 diabetics in your household or people trying to control their blood sugar, you're better off with sweet potato rather than white one. So then, what's in a name, eh? Okay, let's get through. Cut this through one way, like we did with the carrot, like we did with the parsnip, only bigger because we don't want it all to go to mush. We want to be able to mash it, not mush it. And then once we've got all our prep done, we're going to stick that into a pan of boiling water and away it will go. Now today, whilst our things are boiling and bubbling away and we've got that sort of 10, 15 minutes, we're going to have a little bit of a think about meal planning, a little bit of thinking about what we're putting in our cupboards. And we're going to talk a little bit more about how we can store things effectively to extend the life of our food. So when we say store things effectively to extend the life of it, we want it to live as long as it can. Okay, we want it to give us that full-on, the packet says use by or best before, and we want to really be able to use it on all the way up to that date. And how we store things can change whether we can or we can't. So we'll get this lot on, and then we're going to have a bit of a little chat around that. And shopping savvy, keeping to our budgets, because we've all got budgets to keep to. And with the current cost of living and food inflation, although apparently food inflation has come down a little bit this week, which is good. However, it's still running at about 12%, which means that things this year cost you 12% more than they did last year, and food inflation generally ran at about 2 or 3%. So although we're getting better and it's come down a lot, we know that there's still people being affected on food inflation. If we take a little look at our pan, I'm just going to stir it. Already the liquid is thickening and there's less of it. And our carrots, you can't feel that they're soft, but you can feel that they're softening. The parsnips are softening. The flavour from the garlic, the onion, the mixed herbs. You can't only, I mean, you could taste it if you wanted to taste it, but you can smell it. It's all infusing together. And that is what is going to bring such a beautiful pie. So I'm going to turn my board around so I can do my sweet potatoes. Now, my sweet potatoes, I'm definitely not going to peel. We're just going to chop them in half and then chop through. Now, if you get a gnarly bit like that, okay, might just be worth, we'll just take that gnarly bit off because that just isn't going to look very nice in our food. But the rest of it is all good. Just come through, come through, come through, come through. Now, we're chopping a pie with Sweden sweet potato mash today. It goes bright orange when you make it. It makes a beautiful accompaniment or a potato veg accompaniment for roast dinners. It's great if you're going to do it with sausage and mash. And it's an ideal way if you have little people in the house who go, oh, no, I don't want to eat my veg. It's a great way of hiding veg for little people. Works a dream in my house. And, you know, it's got that sweeter kick. It's a beautiful colour. It's something different. Well worth it. And it gets you your carbs to go with your protein, which our protein today is going to be the lentils that we're going to put into there in a minute. As we said, you could do beans. If you want to make it a meat bolognese pie, you can do. What you'd have needed to do is if you were going to do it with mince, for example, minced beef, might just take those end pieces off. Just when you've done your onion and garlic, that's the time just to fry off your minced beef so it's totally sealed around the edges. You don't need it totally fully cooked because then when you go in with the tomatoes and the stock and everything else, that will finish off the cooking process for you. But at least if you seal it, you've sealed in the goodness, you've sealed in the nutrients, you've sealed in the flavour. So that's always one to remember. Now, this is really good. Now, if you haven't got, like I have, a boiling tap, now is the time to boil your kettle because what you're going to need is a pan with boiling water in it so that our beautiful diced up Sweden sweet potato can go in there and just gently cook down. Now, I've got a boiling tap, so I'm going to go and get my pan full of some water. You guys, if you've got a kettle, go and fill the kettle up, get that on. If you've got a boiling tap as well, use your boiling tap. So just over, boiling tap on. Now, what you need to make sure of whenever you're going to do any of this work, don't think I've just turned my back on my boiling water, pouring all into a pan over there. I haven't. I've got my eye on it. There are other members of the team watching it as well. So if you are using a boiling tap, keep your eye. You need enough water to totally cover your swede and your sweet potato. Now, that water being over the top will allow the sweet potato and the swede to expand as they absorb the moisture, which means when you come to mash them, it will be a lot fluffier. Okay? So whilst that's doing that, quick stir on my pot. I don't want it sticking to the bottom. Looking beautiful. I'm going to move this one back and around so I've got room for my pan to go on with my water on it. My boiling tap was having a bit of a I'm on a go slow. So there we are. Pan of water on the hob. Come to the boil, please. Lid. So if you want your pan to boil quicker, put the lid on, keep the heat in, let that boil up through. Now, I want my filling to be slightly cooling before I put my potato on the top. So to do that, I'm going to get ahead on my filling. So where it all looks liquidy still at the moment, I'm going to add some more liquid. Of course, why wouldn't you? So your tin of lentils with the liquid, all of that goes in. Mix that through. Now, the reason I'm adding the lentils later, they take shorter time to cook. That's why. And into that, I'm now going to add my mushrooms. Into there. I'm again going to bring that up to the boil. And the best bit with this is freezable, guys. So you can make this ahead of time. If you're making the whole pie, you can make the pie up ahead of time. If you're only feeding 2 of you and you're going, there's a load of bolognese there, don't worry about it. You can freeze this bolognese. Have it with your pasta. Have it however you want. So bring that one back up to the boil. Because then I want that to simmer again, to take all of that juice from the lentils, to reduce right down. Then I can add my potato and my swede into my boiling water. And then we can have a chat about storing food properly, savvy shopping, what things we want to put in our cupboard, why we want them in our cupboard, what can we do with them? You know, if we've only got if we're on a limited budget, which we all are at the moment, everybody's thinking about everything that they're spending. What can we do to make a variety of different dishes just by a few simple ingredient changes or simple things that we can buy for cheaper or a relatively sensible price at the supermarket that can sit in the cupboard that don't need to be eaten right now? We're going to talk about all of that. Right, my pan is boiling with all of my beautiful veg and lentils in it. So I've given that a good stir to infuse all of those flavours. I'm going to bring that one back down to, again, a high medium heat just so that it keeps simmering. This one is steamy, steamy. So now I am going to add my potatoes and my swede into the water. And I think that James might do a little bit of YouTube magic for me so that you guys don't have to wait and watch it all get cooked. So our team here have... they've helped me out. They've prepared another dish. They've prepared the same pie in the same way so that we can put that in the oven so that you don't have to listen to me for an added 20 minutes at the end of this. So, potato, swede, plenty of water, okay? Get it to the boil. Make sure it is boiling. And then our lid can go back on. We'll just bring it down a little bit. So we're at a high heat, but the lower end are high. So if you're using like a hob like we've got with numbers on it, I'm going to bring that down to about 8. If you're using a gas hob, where you're at max, just tweak it back round to just above halfway between medium and max. And just let that bubble. Lid stays on. the moisture stays in, the potatoes are sweet, not only boiled, but the steam gets recirculated. The water, the energy efficiency is so much more. So that is now boiling. I can see it kicking the Swede up off the bottom. Wrong one. So I'm now just going to bring that down to an 8 and put my lid on. Stir my mushrooms and my lentils and my veg. And let's talk savvy shopping and saving ourselves some money and putting those things in the store cupboard that we can just go to at any time. So here at UK Harvest, we talk quite a lot about make sure you do the right thing. Make sure you think about what you're doing. And planning is one of the biggest things that we talk about. Now, when we say planning, look at your meals for the week. How many people are at home? How many times are they going to want to eat? Hopefully, they all eat the same thing. But if they don't, what changes can I make to dishes as I go through so that we can all visibly eat the same thing, but I'm hitting everybody's taste spot? So the first thing that we say before we go shopping is plan. Pick those meals. This is something and somewhere that the internet has really, really helped, because so many of us always do the same 10 meals. We get really bored, but it's easy because it's what we know. So if you're going to go one night a week, we're going to have something different. Grab a recipe off the internet, get those things put down on your shopping list, work out what you want to do, work out what you want to eat, work out where it goes moving forward. Write your shopping list, then shop your own kitchen. It's the best shop you've got, okay? It is the best shop you've got. So write your shopping list, shop your kitchen. What does that mean? Open the cupboards, see what you've got. Have I got the tinned tomatoes for my chili or my bolognese or my curry? Have I got the beans or the lentils that I can put in to bulk out another meal? Have I got a load of veg in the cupboard already? Have I got potatoes in my cupboard away from my onions? Have I got carrots or veg in my fridge that I can use? Shop your cupboards and everywhere first. So your own kitchen is your first point of call for shopping. Then when you go to the supermarket, you've got your list, but what's on it? Now, I said a few things just as we were going through there. What have I got in the cupboard that I can bulk things out with? Now, the cost of living, the food inflation, we know meat, fish, poultry has gone up so much in price. And a lot of people still want it in their diet, still need it in their diet. It's what they're used to. That's not wrong. That's not bad. But at times we can't all afford it. And just by switching out half of that mince and putting in a tin of beans or a tin of lentils can bring the price down, and you're still getting your vital proteins, you're still getting your vital nutrients. So if we make a chili, is it going to matter that we've put 2 tins of beans in and half the amount of mince rather than twice the amount of mince with only 1 tin of kidney beans? No, because we're flavouring the sauce. We can bulk out dishes in a cheap, efficient, effective way that increases our protein intake, that increases our nutritional values of the meals by simply having things in the cupboard that we can just fall back on. Now, as I say, butter beans, cannellini beans, black beans, chickpeas, lentils are brilliant bulkers. To me, they are always in my cupboard. They are relatively cheap to buy. They are super good for me nutritionally, and they can bulk out any dish. Any curry I make, I can put lentils in it because they work. I can put chickpeas in it because they work. If I'm making chilies, if I'm making bologneses, if I want to take my bolognese to that lasagna level, whichever it is, I can put lentils and beans in. I don't have to use a kilo of mince to feed 6 people. I can all of a sudden get away with 500 grams of mince and a load of beans, tins of sweet corn, peppers, anything like that, that I can put in there just to bulk it out. And this is where using your store cupboard, using your freezer can save you so much money. You buy frozen veg, it goes into the freezer, you use what you need as you need it. But this dish that we're making today, if the veg that went in there had been frozen, it's no problem. It's no problem. You're still getting the nutritional value. You're still getting the nutritional content. You're still getting the flavour point, but we're not throwing veg away week on week.
So we've got a comment from Kerry Yates. It says, we walk out our meals with veg and baked beans.
Brilliant. Spot on. Brilliant. Who was that, Kerry?
Kerry Yates.
Kerry apparently has just come through and said that they bulk their meals out with baked beans and with veg, and excellent. Why not? Why not? The beans can bring flavour. If you're going to make it, I'll be honest, I don't make a bean chilli at home without putting a tin of baked beans in it. Because the sauce off the baked beans just takes off the real heat touch of chili because of the sweetness to it, bulks it out, reduces how much meat you're eating, and you're still feeding the family, and everybody's still having a great meal and really, really enjoying themselves. And that's what food's about. It's about the experience. Do not be afraid to drop an ingredient down in weight and increase somewhere else. So on this one, I think today we had the 500 grams of sweet potato and the medium-sized swede. If you've got a bag of sweet potatoes and no swede, just use sweet potato mash. I'm going to just put on the extractor a little bit because I'm tempted to say that you might be getting half a ton of steam going straight across me. But so plan your meals. What swaps can I make to bulk my food out, to bring my shopping bill down? What store cupboard essentials, and when I say store cupboard, that means things that aren't going to go off really quick. So my store cupboard is my freezer and my store cupboard. So tins of chopped tomatoes, tins of beans, tins of lentils, mixed veg in the freezer, anything like that to bulk it out. You're getting the nutrients. It's brilliant for you. But how can we extend the life of our food? So this was something that we were talking about, or I was talking about earlier. When we're talking about extending the life of food, it's all about how we store stuff. Now, how many people store their milk in the door of their fridge? Me. Everybody else in this room, the people the other side of those cameras, have all put their hands up to. We all do, because that's what the door's there for. It is, to a degree. It's also the warmest part of our fridge. It's the most temperature volatile part of our fridge. Every time we open the door, the inside of the door gets warm. Every time we shut the door, it's kicking around air. It's the most temperature volatile part of our fridge. And we're putting dairy product there. Okay, note to self, I do it every time I do this, and I do it the time that I go home. I go home and I go, right, that milk don't go there. It goes on the middle shelf in the fridge because it's the coolest spot. So milk, middle shelf. Dairy products, middle shelf. Not in the door. The door's the most temperature volatile. Who here stores their potatoes with their onions? Don't do it. Don't do it. Storing onions and potatoes is like putting the bananas in the middle of your fruit bowl. The chemical reactions between the two make them both age so much quicker. So store your bananas out of your fruit bowl, store your onions and your potatoes separately, because otherwise they're going to deteriorate quicker. And if you get the little eyes growing on your potatoes and the little legs coming off them, doesn't mean the potato's bad. You just pick that piece out, use the rest of the potato. Don't be tempted to throw it away just because it looks a little bit rough. Okay? Big one with eggs. People always say, should I put eggs in a fridge or should they be on the work surface? Where you store your eggs is where you store your eggs. The one thing I'd say, being a chefy sort of person, if you're ever going to cook with eggs, you want your eggs to be at room temperature. Okay? Everybody seems to go, or a lot of people go to the supermarket, they buy their tray of eggs that is at room temperature because it's in the ambient section of the supermarket. They get home, and because there's this little thing with 6 little holes in it in the top of their fridge, they put their eggs in it and put them in the fridge. They don't need to go in the fridge, guys. Okay? They don't need to go in the fridge. Keep them on the work surface. Make sure they're at room temperature. You get a much better quality egg if you're using a room temperature egg than a chilled one. Okay? And use your freezer for leftovers. Don't be afraid to store food in your freezer. As I said, this bolognese, yes, I'm going to make a pie for it. Yes, it's going to feed 3/4 of the office. But if I'm only feeding 2, I'm going to make half the size of the pie. Or I might make the whole pie and freeze the pie at the end. But the bolognese I could store, and we could have it a few nights' time, because I've stored it in the freezer. Comes out when I need a quick and easy meal. Whack some spaghetti or some pasta on. 12 minutes later, we're eating. Use your freezer. Herbs, spices. If you buy fresh herbs and you don't use them all, dice them all up, pack them into an ice cube tray, pour some water over the top, whack them in the freezer, flavour bomb. Next time you're going to make a bolognese and you think, oh, I've got some fresh basil that I had for a dish because all the family came around, I've got some of it in the freezer. It's a pure flavour bomb that you can just chuck it in there. Don't throw it away. Don't tuck it back into the fridge and forget all about it. Let's use our food. So if I could give you just a few takeaways from today. Think beans, think lentils, think tinned veg, okay? Whether that be sweet corn or tins of peas, whatever. They are brilliant bulkers. The beans, the lentils are a fantastic protein source. They can swap for half of the meat. Reduce your costs. They sit in the cupboard. They can be there for years. That's number one. Number two, think about how you're storing stuff. Dairy, middle shelf of your fridge, coolest place, not in the door. Extend the life of that milk. You can freeze milk. One thing I used to do at university, because I didn't really do cereal, because at university I didn't really do mornings, to be honest, but I did do coffee and tea. So I make my cup of coffee, I've frozen my milk in an ice cube bag, I just pop a cube of milk straight into my coffee, give it a stir, thanks very much. My coffee's at a temperature that I can drink because I want to get out the door, and I haven't wasted any milk. It's one of the most wasted foods in this country, milk. And leftovers, use your freezer. Keep your spuds and your onions apart, keep your bananas and your fruit apart, keep your eggs at room temperature, they cook better, and use your freezer to freeze your leftovers. Right, I've waffled for long enough. You guys are probably thinking, who is this idiot talking to me about storing my food? I'm now going to get back to the cooking. Our potato and our swede, so if we've got eyes down, our potato and our swede is still bubbling away, lovely, lovely, lovely. And our bolognese is coming together really well. I'm going to give it a stir because I don't want my lentils stuck to the bottom of the pan. Now that, for me, for this pie, is a great sort of consistency. I don't want it too dry, but I don't want it wet and running away with itself. So that, bearing in mind we're going to bake it as well, that is looking really, really good. So I'm just going to leave that on because I'm just going to test. Just going to test my potatoes. So gently make sure the top isn't too hot, which it is. Just gently take the top off of your pot. And then with a spoon, because it's hot in there, just bring yourself some swede and some sweet potato up to the top and just poke it with a knife. And if your knife goes in nice and easy without any pressure, or you can pick it up and it falls off the end, your potatoes are done. So, bolognese pan, that's going to come off the heat now. So I'm going to turn that off the heat because I want that just to cool down a little bit. Now, the reason I want it to cool down a little bit is I want that sauce to thicken with the temperature coming out of it. As it cools down, it will thicken. I'm also going to turn the temperature off to my big pan because my swede and sweet potato are cooked. So, swede and sweet potato are cooked, so I'm just going to drain those now. So going really careful, that's why I'm getting another cloth because my pan is going to be hot. I'm just going to take them over to the sink, drain them, get as much water out of them as I can, and then I'm going to return it back to the pan, okay? So, my colander goes in my sink, and over we go. And then pouring away from me because I don't want to get splashed with boiling water. And all of that comes. Make sure you get as much juice out of there as you can and as much liquid as you can. Then your colander, give it a good shake because we don't want a load of water in our mash. We don't want runny mash. Nobody wants runny mash. So give that a good shake. Once all the water's drained out, back to the pan. Get him, get him. Oh, left a bit behind. Back in the pan. And back over to the station. So, That's our swede and our sweet potato in the bottom of that, okay? Now, I'm making mine vegan, my mash, so I'm not going to add any butter. I'm not going to add any marge. I'm not going to add any milk. If you wanted to, you can. The way I'm going to do it, it's going to be slightly more textured, so it's going to be slightly chunkier, not as smooth, but if you want to add those butter or you want to add that milk, you can do. If you want to add some cheese to run through the mash, grate it up nice and fine, put that through it, you can do. But otherwise, it's just spud masher straight in. Now, people probably looked when I started this and I didn't peel my potatoes, and I bet people were going, that's going to be horrible. That's just going to not work. I like the idea of not peeling them to make mash, but no, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. Well, I'll show you now that it does work. You just got to cut your potatoes small enough, basically. So there's my chunky mash. Make sure I get it all. Okay. So that's my chunky mash. And look, where's the skin? Anybody see the skin? Anybody worrying about the skin? Don't need to worry about the skin. Skin's all good. It's fine. Okay, so bring that together. Move it to one side. Bolognese, looking good. There we go. Right, I'm just going to grab my dish and we're going to start to build this pie up. Okay? Now, building the pie up is all about flavour. It's all about look. It's all about whatever you want it to be. Now, because I'm me and I like people to see my food, and obviously I'm showing you guys at home as well, I'm using a glass Pyrex casserole dish or, you know, heat-proof, oven-proof dish. I'm using glass so you guys can see where I go up to and where I fill to. How you do it at home, whatever shape, size, whatever of cooking pot you've got, it doesn't matter. It's basically the same. All right, doesn't matter. Whichever one you've got, it's the same. So I'm going to pile my bowl with my lentil mix. I'm actually going to get a different spoon because that one is going to take forever. Yeah, you could put olive oil in your mash. Yeah, just go a little bit gentle. You don't want loads in there. The only thing that I would say with the olive oil, if you're going to put olive oil in it, makes it lovely and smooth. Yes. Adds a little bit of flavour. Yes. Obviously, then though, you have got oil in the top of your pie mix or your pie topping. So just watch it when it goes in the oven. You don't want the oven too hot because otherwise the top will go very crispy very quickly and the rest of it might not have set properly. But it's all good. Yeah, go for it. And that keeps it vegan too if you use olive oil. You're all good with that. So, yeah, you could use olive oil. So I'm just going to carry on laying this beautiful mix into this pie. Now, this recipe, all of our recipes should serve 4. You're not going to be hungry after this lot, I can tell you that. So get a good layer in there. Just debating whether I want to keep some of this for my lunch tomorrow or whether I don't mind the family, more importantly, the crew behind the screens, whether they want to eat all of this or whether I'll be kind, the crew can have it. I've got more cooking to do tomorrow, so I'm sure I'll be able to find something for my lunch tomorrow. And this is where you can be the master of your own destiny, if you like. How much mash do you put on? There is no hard, fast rule. However much you think, however much you like sweet potato mash. I'm going to go quite heavy on mine, so if I just pick this one up so that you guys can see it. I'm going to come up to the top camera, Tash. So I've gone that deep on my mix. Okay, I've gone that deep on my mix. I'm going to top it with mashed potato all the way up to the top. Okay, so my mash. Let's get my spoon. James has done a brilliant job here. He's just coming back in to check the one that's in the oven. I think it's all right. I had a look a minute ago so that these people don't have to sit with us all the way through. But whilst he's there, do you think you could pass me a fork, mate? So we're spooning our mash on. Now, obviously, if you've got the time, I would really, really encourage you, if you've got the time, which none of us have we? Let's be fair. But if you've got the time, if you put your bolognese into the bowl and leave your bolognese in there, as the temperature cools, that gravy part of your bolognese, the sauce part of your bolognese, will start to thicken, and you'll get a seal on the top. And that makes topping it with mashed potatoes so much easier. If you make cottage pies, or if you make shepherd's pies, or anything else like that at home, if you make fish pie at home, anything that you're going to top with mash, if you let the filling bit of it in the bowl go cooler, all of the liquid will start to set, so that that top bit creates a film for you to actually push down on with your potato. So it keeps the differentiation. Whereas this, if I push down on it, because it's warm, the liquid's just going to keep coming back up. And just in case Linda, who is one of our fantastic volunteers here, is watching, because she's the one who made the one that's in the oven at the moment, just in case she's watching, it's not an excuse, Linda, because yours is going to look better than mine. It's just me trying to give a hint, all right? So but we have a good team here who support all the way through, both volunteers and staff, obviously. And with the help and support of people like the Tesco's Community Grant funding, it allows us to keep going, not only with our education programme, which is what the Tesco's Grants was for, but grants and support from other avenues as well, allow us to be able to support up to 350 different charities each week with a free food delivery. So we rescue food, we redistribute food. We've got 16 community food hubs throughout the whole of, throughout Sussex, basically West Sussex. We've got a Nourish hub, so anybody who's in London, if you ever get anywhere near Shepherd's Bush or Hammersmith, we've got the Nourish hub up there. It's open Monday to Friday. They're feeding up to 300 people a day with rescued food. So any grant funding, any support that we get, whether that be financial or whether that be with people like our volunteers coming in and helping us out to support the community, it's vital. So I'm going to bring a board back in so I can go across the middle now. So I'm not topping mine with cheese, okay? Now, I could put it in the oven like that, but I saw Linda's that she made yesterday, and I've got to try and match it and make it look as good. So I'm just going to get my fork. And like a show from years ago that half the people in this room won't understand what I'm going on about, I'm going in ever-decreasing circles all the way around, just dragging my fork around. Now, what this is doing, hopefully this is doing, and what the one in the oven hopefully is doing, is giving me more areas of surface that are going to get hit by temperature. Now, why do we want that? It's going to make those bits on the top go really, really, really crispy. And if you put cheese on the top, the cheese will sink into the little fishes and it'll all go, oh, yes, it's going to taste gorgeous, guys. And this is going to add to that flavour because it's going to give you little tight little bits of fisher and peak and fisher and peak. And all of the peaks are going to go nice and crispy. It's going to look a picture. It's going to taste even more amazing. So that pie is ready to go in the oven. I'm going to see if by the power of YouTube, the one in the oven is already done. 2 seconds. Yep, we're good to go. Right, so I'm going to put my pie in the oven. I'm going to bring back one that we made earlier. Well, actually, one that Linda made earlier. So if I put this one in, we're in a gas mark 6, which is 180 degrees on a fan-assisted oven. And it needs to go in for about the 20-25 minutes, something like that. So James put this one in when we started cooking our potatoes, and I started to waffle about storage and shopping and being shopping savvy. But I hope you'll agree, this one has got cheese on it. Oh, Linda, you did a great job. So there we have our Bolognese pie, topped with sweet potato mash, finished off with beautiful cheese. I think she might have grated some black pepper on there, or put a few mixed herbs on the top as well. But hopefully you guys can see, you know when I said using the fork and going around gives you more surface area to get crispy. If I just twist this one around, you can see the crispy bits all coming through. She just went cheese heavy in the middle, so you can't see it there. But yeah, all the way through. And let's see, if I get a plate, let's see what this one actually looks like. This is the time that Simon's going to throw it all over the place and be happy that the lovely Linda who made it isn't actually here at the moment. So let's get myself my spoon. Let's have a look. Again, it's a great one that you can make ahead of time, easily feeds your family of 4. Whack it with a bit of fresh veg if you want. Don't drop it on the floor, sorry. That would look really bad on YouTube. So just get in underneath. Oh, she's done well. That is looking gorgeous. Oh, sweet corn in there. So we were talking about bulking things out with other things. So we obviously didn't have all the ingredients for Linda to make it yesterday, but I'll tell you what, she's made an amazing pie. So there you have it. Our Sweden sweet potato mash on the top, parsnips, carrots, sweet corn, mushrooms, all coming through inside. I think there might be some chickpea in there actually as well. So bulk your food out. Pick what you really want to have in your store cupboard to help you bulk out, to help you save some pennies, to make your food delicious, full of protein, nutritious, delicious, healthy for you, good on the pocket. 1 Bolognese, vegetable Bolognese pie, ready to go. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed the session today. I hope I haven't bored you too much. Maybe brought a little bit of light to your day, especially when I couldn't get my own cooker to work, which, you know, these things happen live. No animals or children, no, but, you know, just don't work live either sometimes. I hope you've had a fantastic time. I've enjoyed talking to you for the last hour or so. Have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Keep an eye on the website and hope to see you soon. Bye for now.